In this lesson, you'll learn about the key methods used by a content provider and the objects that interface with it. Those methods are query, update, insert, delete, getType, and onCreate. Remember, these key methods provide the connection between the user interface on through the content interface, content resolver, content provider, and into data access. Let's first look at the one method that's a bit different from the others, the onCreate method. To understand it, let's follow the sequence of events that triggers the content provider onCreate method. First, the content interface uses a content resolver object to access data for the first time. This causes the content resolver to try accessing the content provider, which causes the content provider object to be created and the onCreate method of the content provider to be invoked. In the onCreate method, the app does things like opening files and databases, and the work done there should be kept minimal. Let's take a look at the onCreate code for our service provider in the app. In the Notepad provider Java file, at statement 239, we have the onCreate method. All it's doing is creating a database helper object, which will handle opening the database when it's first accessed. And we'll learn about the database helper in the lesson on databases. And now on to our key 5 methods. The 5 key methods are query, insert, update, delete, and getType. They take inputs generated from our user and content interface, they use them to operate on the database, and return the results back through the same chain. And this creates a big feedback loop servicing interaction between our user and the database. In this lesson, I'll give you a quick rundown of the method's parameters and returns, and in the next lesson, we'll look at them in detail. So there are 7 parameters used in various combinations by the 5 methods. Now, this table shows which parameters are applicable to which methods and where they can be null. The URI specifies the data subset to be addressed, and we've already looked at the URI in some detail. Projection specifies which columns to include for each row returned from a query. The selection clause and arguments specify criteria for selecting rows for queries, updates, and deletes. The sort order specifies a column to be used for sorting a query result. Content values specify column and value pairs for inserts and updates. And the cancellation signal provides a mechanism to stop a query operation during processing of that operation. And there are 4 different types of return values. The cursor, which we've already looked at in detail, specifies the result set from a query operation. The URI specifies the URI of a newly inserted item. The integers specify the number of rows affected by an update or delete. And the MIME string identifies the MIME type of the file operated on. In addition to these methods, there are a couple more I want to mention that are used in the Notepad app. They're managed query, the method managed query, and the class cursor loader. Let's look at statement 103 in the notes list Java code. It shows the use of the managed query method, which is part of the activity class. The managed query method is a wrapper around the query method that manages the life cycle of the cursor using the start managing cursor method. These methods execute a query method for you and do the additional work of cursor management. And you can find a description of the managed query and start managing cursor methods in the activity class on the developer's website. To find them, go to the developer's website and look for activity. Click on Methods and look for Managed Query. Here it is right here. There's a description of it. And we can also look for Start Managing Cursor. Here it is right here. And its description. Now let's take another look at the Managed Query statement in the Notepad app. We see that the Managed Query method has been deprecated in API Level 11 in favor of the cursor loader. You can still use the Managed Query method, but Google's suggestion is that you consider using the cursor loader class instead. And I'll click on cursor loader and bring up the description of it from the developer's website. As explained here, the cursor loader class is really an additional enhancement on the managed query method as it runs the database query in a background thread. If you want to use the cursor loader class and have it be backward compatible with versions of Android pre-API 11, you need to include the support library, which includes support back to API 4. Now, we'll learn more about backward compatibility and the support library in a coming lesson. That's our lesson on content provider key methods. And now let's take a deeper look at the parameters and return values used by these methods in our next lesson.